It's been 84 years since one of the largest disasters in East Texas history. On March 18, 1937, the New London School exploded and collapsed after natural gas seeped into the building. Hundreds of children and adults were killed and many more injured, and the story of the event was spread worldwide.
84 years ago, the weather was similar to what we've got today.
This afternoon, around 70 people gathered in front of the memorial to remember those who died that day. In the crowd were a few survivors, descendants of those who went through the tragedy, and many who grew up in the area, all with the mission to remind people of what happened.
You know, no one is dead, truly dead, until no one speaks their name. So it is our desire as volunteers here at the museum to keep those people alive by speaking their name on a regular basis. That's what we are here for.
At 3:17 p.m., the time when the building exploded, there was a minute of silence and then taps was played. The London Museum is open Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Saturdays from March until August.
No words can adequately describe what these pictures show. The horror and tragedy of the Texas blast, the worst school disaster in our history. Volunteers work without rest to bring out the living, to recover the dead. Mingled with them were grief-stricken parents, fathers and mothers whose agony was intensified by evidence of the crushing calamity, by these scenes of desolation. Schoolrooms in the wing left standing reveal the full force of the explosion, which literally blew a building to bits. The blast hurled a 1-ton concrete slab through the air like a feather to smash this car, whose driver had left it a few minutes before. This is the way the Texas school looked before the blast. With 1,250 enrolled, it was one of the largest rural schools. Now, all that's left, a wing standing like a sepulcher over the ruins where more than 455 died. In the schoolrooms, huge slabs crushed desks, just as they crushed out the lives of helpless pupils.
It's still considered one of the worst disasters to ever happen in Texas. 84 years ago this week, an explosion at a school in East Texas killed hundreds, mostly children. But it led to change that we still see today. Here's the backstory with Bob Buckalew.
The 1930s in East Texas. Despite the Great Depression, money was flowing from the oil fields. Little towns like New London near Tyler were prosperous. The community built a new school to educate grades 5 through 12, said to be one of the most modern in Texas. To provide heat in winter, school officials saved taxpayers $300 a month to pipe in natural gas from the oil fields. It was a tragic mistake. At 3:17 in the afternoon of March 18, 1937, the school building exploded. A young Associated Press reporter named Walter Cronkite covered the story. He would later write, 2 minutes before classes were to be dismissed for the weekend, a student in the basement woodworking shop switched off a bandsaw. The spark did its work. Workers from the oil fields rushed in to help pull victims from the tangled mass of shattered steel and concrete. But for many of the students and teachers, nothing could be done. 294 died. Most were just kids, like 5th grader Bobby Jean Smith. Iva Jo Smith, she was in the 6th grade. 7th grader Earl Jefferson Scott, and so many more. Many now buried in graves in the red soil of East Texas. John Davidson's sister Ardith also died that day.
My mother would make, casual statements sometimes about teaching her to drive and how pretty she was and how talented, but not much. They blocked it out of their lives, I guess.
Back then, natural gas was odorless, but because of the New London disaster, a chemical has been added, giving it its distinctive smell, no doubt saving lives. And today, the New London Museum welcomes visitors from across the country. And nearby, close to the new high school, a monument recalls that horrible day in March. Almost an entire generation lost, and still remembered. Bob Buckalew, KVUE News.
The bill lawmakers passed in 1937 required that fuels be added to natural gas to give it that rotten egg smell that you may associate with it now.